Yeah, good evening, everyone, uh, and welcome to today's session. Uh, we will start from where we left last time, that is Tuesday. Uh, we will start today with the Python loops. So, basically, loops are very important uh, part of Python programming or any other programming language for that matter, because there are certain situations in which you will be needing to test a condition, or you'll be needing to uh, go through iterations and or maybe do some operations on uh, a list, suppose. So if a list has a certain number of members in it, elements, so for doing a similar kind of operation inside a list, you can use a loop. So that makes it very easy, right? So what happens is the loop will help you go through each and every element of the list, and you can do that operation whatever you need. If you want to add certain numbers, if it is a list containing numbers, so you can add certain numbers, or you can multiply a number to each and every member of the list. So simple operations like that you can do using the loops. So loops basically help you to uh, do an operation which you need to be repeated a certain number of times very efficiently. So you just have to write it once, and for every iteration or every repetition, that operation will be performed uh, based on the condition you have given, or based on the other stuff. So we will just look at the basic syntax here. We'll start with the for loop. Okay, so uh, the basic for loop, what we have here is like you can see on the screen. So uh, just a simple sentence like for, like you have seen range function, right, in the last session. So what uh, for I in range, this is the syntax. So after this uh, colon, whatever you give, whatever operation you give, it will be repeated, right? So after the colon, whatever is present is going to happen a certain number of times, right? That operation is going to happen a certain number of times. So how many times it will happen, you can decide using like what this range functions defines. So like I've given range 10 here, right? So from this particular print I, so I is nothing but it's in range 10, which means I will take values from 0 to 9. So if I run this, okay, so this range starts with 0, the range function. And if you have not given the starting limit, so it's like there, now you have only given the stop, the last point till when you want this operation to be repeated, right? So you have given 10 here, so it will be executed 10 times. Okay, so and it starts with 0. So if it is starting with 0 and 10 times, so it will end with 9. There's a simple print here. So i's value is from 0 to 9 because of this range, because I in range is defining I to be from 0 to 9. Now in the second sentence we are just printing I. So for the first iteration, the I value is 0, so it prints 0. And the next time the I value will be 1. So it if you specify the range function, it will keep adding 1 each time, and this print will be repeated. Okay, so that's how this simple print statement can be used inside the for loop for repeating certain operations. So here we are repeating print, and I takes value because of this range function 0 to 9. Okay, so are you able to understand this one, or anybody has any doubts in this? Can I get yes in the chats so that we can proceed with this is simplest form of the for loop? Okay, so we can proceed. So now what we are going to do is we are going to use it for certain little complex kind of operations. So what we uh, we have done here is we have defined a numbers. This is like a string, right? So because it is defined in codes, so it is a collection of these single digit numbers inside it, right? So this numbers contains is a string basically which has these numbers inside it. So even, odd, we have defined empty, right, variables. So right now they are not having any values. We will see how they will start. You will start adding values to them. So now we are using for loop, a simple for loop. So what we are doing here is now for num in numbers. Okay, so in numbers we have already defined numbers is this string which have this collection of uh, integer numbers, right? It is defined inside a string. So for num in numbers, we are just uh, looking at this data type now. We we are checking this condition. So for this for loop, we are checking uh, int num of uh, percentile 2 is equal to 0. So can anybody tell me what this condition will check? Because we have learned the modulus operator in our operators session.
Reminder, okay. Any other answers?
Yes, remainder is correct, but remainder, what we are trying to establish by saying remainder, if you divide by 2 is equal to 0. Yeah, you're correct that it takes the remainder. So we are seeing if it is an even number or an odd number, right? So if it is 0, we say uh, even this operator, right? Even is equal to even plus num. Now num variable will take values from this list. Sorry, this collection of integers, right? So first value for num, if you because now this is defined a string, we have to use an uh, int num to convert it back to a digit, right? So that we can use each one of them. So that we can check this condition for each of those digits. Okay, so what we had so the first num will be 1. Okay, so now num 1 percentile 2 will is not 0, right? So this condition will not be this operation will not happen. The else operation will happen. So as 1 percentile 2 is not equal to 0, else will happen. And as dividing it by 2, the remainder is not 0, it is odd, right? So the number is odd. So we are saying odd is equal to odd plus num. So can you tell me what will odd now have? Because odd was empty first. Now uh, can you tell me, because 1 was the first num we took, right? So now odd will have what? Can somebody tell you in chat? Yes, correct. So odd will now have the digit 1, okay? Because we have added 1 to it. Yes, correct, Aishwarya, it will have 1. So like this, for every digit here, right, this for loop will execute, okay, for every digit. And finally, it is going to add it to either even or odd, right? These two variables. So if we run this, you get all the evens here. Like you can see, all the even digits are added here, and the odds add up here, right? Has everyone understood this, or are there any questions? We use a simple for loop to. So what is the basic rule? You can, for num in whatever variable you want, like this numbers we are taking. So this for loop will go inside this numbers variable and check for each and every digit. You can have anything here. You can have x or y. I just took num as a variable, okay? But this numbers should be to which uh, uh, variable you want to apply this for loop to. So after in, it should be that variable, okay? So can we proceed? Can I get a confirmation? Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, we'll continue.
Yeah, so okay, thank you everyone. So we will go to for loops for strings now, okay? So similar things, like I have a simple string here, twinkle twinkle little stars, okay? So now uh, I want to run my for loop on this string. So what I'll do is I'll write for letter in str. So this is the same variable as defined above, str. I'll go print letter. Whatever you defined here, you have to do operations on this. Okay. So it will take each of these letters as each repetition. So you can see it started with T, then W, then I. It kept printing them one after other. Okay. So this is again a simple for loop used on strings. You can try to execute this, and you can try to put your maybe something like my name is and your name into this string and try to print this. Okay. Can you please try it now? And you can confirm it to me after you complete. Okay. Oh, done. So Ashwarya, you have already done the name thing. Uh, Try to put a string like my name is and your name, and then try to print each and every letter. Okay, okay. So you're talking about the wrinkle one. You can try. You can quickly try this one. You can write inside this string variable. You can name this variable as anything, and you can just write my name is your name. And if you try to run this for loop, it will show you the same exact sentence with each and every letter printed after each line. Because okay, so Anisha has done it. Thank you. Keep trying that. Okay, Vishnu has also done it. So, okay, if there are no doubts here, we can proceed further. Ashwari has also done it. Okay, so this is for strings. Just an example of how naturally every element of a string or a collection of numbers can be iterated using the for loop. Okay, so we'll see nested for loop now. So what happens when you have a for loop inside a for loop? Okay, so let me just print this for you now. We'll see uh, the pyramid kind of a thing. Okay, so what is happening here is basically uh, for for a variable I, which I have defined range as 11. So what will be the range of numbers for which I will have values? It will be 0 to 10, right? So for these values, this inner loop will run. So how basically uh, this will happen is uh, for like for i's value as 1, you will have j in range. I've given is here is I. Okay, so if I value is 1 and j is in j range is 1, you will get whatever the I value you have passed, right? So for I, if is 2, this loop will run twice. Okay, because so if I value is 2, j in range will be 2, right? So it will first print 1 and then with a space, as you can see end is equal to is given a space, it will again print 2 because so you have passed the value 2 here. Now if it is in range 2, this loop should run twice, right? So it will print the I value, which is 2 twice. So this is how this row happens. Similarly, for I value 3, and you will pass this I now becomes 3. As it is 3, this loop will now run thrice. Okay, so the value 3 will be printed 3 times. Okay, so for the next value like 4, so what is happening basically is whatever value I is is increasing, that number of times this inner loop is running. Okay, so if I value becomes 4, this inner loop runs 4 times, and it prints whatever the value is for I now, right? So if I value is 5, this inner loop which is print, it runs 5 times with a space each time. So that's how 5 is printed 5 times. It is printed 5 times because this inner loop is printing I, which is 5. It is running 5 times. Okay, so for value 6, this runs 6 times, the inner loop. It keeps running, and then after 6 times it has run, the I value becomes 7. Then again it goes to the inner loop, and this one works 7 times. Okay, this is how this matrix is uh, uh, printing. Okay, so now because I have given end is equal to space, this this smaller loop is printing in the same line. Okay, otherwise this loop will may go to the next line. It may print to the next line. So the number of times this smaller loop runs will define the number of times this particular I value is printed. So you can try this round, try to run this and see what you are getting. If you have doubts, you can ask. Okay. Is are there any doubts? Can we proceed further? Okay. Okay. So we will go ahead now. If you have tried this, keep trying it and try to visualize how the second loop is working, because of the second so for every value of I, the second loop works that many times. Whatever is the value of I, it prints the numbers that many times. So we'll go to this simple for loop again. So now, as we have learned in the range function on Tuesday, I have given here the step size. Okay, so if you want your numbers to be in a certain step size, like here I have given 3. So what will happen is, first number is the starting point is 1 and the end point is 30. Okay, so the step size is 3. So it will print numbers. So let me just ask you, what do you think will be the sequence printed here? Because you have learned the range step size. What will be the sequence of numbers? I've already given you an hint here. Okay, can you please post in chat box so that uh, others also get an idea? It's just visualizing, right? So this is the start point, this is the end point for the range function. We saw this in the quiz also. And then this is the step size. The first number will be 1. The next number will be what? Any guesses? Right. Correct, Harishree. Correct, Aishwarya. This will be the sequence. The next number will be 4. So 1, 4, 7, and it will this loop will run till the value 28, because then 28 plus 3 becomes 31, and 31 is not our endpoint, right? It is 30. Okay. So yes, so this is a little customization where you can give step size in the rule in the loops. So yeah, moving ahead, we have this simple list. Okay, so now these are the elements. So this is a mixed kind of a list where you have string elements as well as the numeric elements. Okay, so what happens here is you just give a variable I in sequence. So you just give, after the in, you give the list name you are using. Okay, sorry for that. So you give the list name for I in sequence in SCQ, that is the list name. Just print I, simple. So you will get the elements here. Elements one by one. The 1, 2, 5, hello, ABC is printed, right? So again, a simple thing where you add any other new elements, and this list will be updated, and it will print those list elements. So this is how you access list using the for loop. You just give any variable. So I can give um, like uh, list mem and just print this list mem, any variable name I can give. Okay, so for list mem in CQ, that is the list, I'm just printing the same thing. So for every element, this print statement should work. So it works the same thing. First element is the variable name, second one is the list name. Okay, so you can try this out, and maybe create a list of some objects and try it in a for loop. Okay, you can do that parallelly. So are there any doubts here, or is this clear? Because these are again simple operations. Okay, so can we proceed? Has everyone tried this? Please try. Okay, so we will go to uh, for loop reversing. Okay, so how do I access elements from back to front? Okay, so if I want to print elements from ABC, then hello, then 521. So this is how I will do it. So you saw the len function, right? So what will len give you is the length of is the number of elements. Okay, so uh, I'm doing it -1 because it is the indexing starts with 0, right? So this is an compensation we are doing because the if the len function will give you 5, the index will be actually 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so just for the indexing we have taken len seq -1. Okay, the len of seq will give you 5 and -1 is 4. So you might have gotten an idea what we are going to do here, because uh, the start uh, variable we have already given, or we are assigning it as 4, right? 5 minus 1, 4. So similarly, the stop and the step, because we are going from top to bottom, we are going in the reverse order, we will give it as -1. So step is -1 means it will keep on reducing the index number. So for the loop, if the first index number is 4, step is -1, the next one will be 3. Okay, so that's how we move downwards. And stop is -1 because we don't want to lose the first element here. Okay, because the first element index is 0. Okay, so if we give a stop as 0, it might not work. So let's just see. So it is now, this is again the simple thing. I in range start, stop, and step. Instead of the numbers, we are giving variable names here. So start value is 4, stop value is -1, and step is also -1. And we are just doing print of seq I. So for every I value, that will be the index. So that's how we have given the index here. For every I value, the first I value, which will be 4. Okay, so this basically will print first seq4, then seq3, because step is -1, it will keep reducing, seq2 and seq1 and seq0. Okay, so try to run this. So we get first ABC because that is the last element, and start value we have started from the fourth index, right? Start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so what I was telling was, if uh, stop is not -1, you will not get the last iteration. So you will not the loop will not reach the last index. Okay, because just if you just change it to 0 and see, now you can see all the elements are printed. But if you make it 0 and try to run it, so you see here 1 has not been printed. Okay, it should because it should uh, reach the zero index, so we are kind of compensating. Are you getting my point? So if you give zero, uh, it will come till here because we have started from 4, not 5. Okay, so that's why stop needs to be -1 and not 0, because if you see, we start from the fourth value, right, and we start printing. Okay, so you uh, you print seq of 4, right? So I think you are getting my point, right? So if you start from 4, fourth index, you will get ABC first, and then this will be the third, this will be the second, it will be 1, uh, and this will be the zeroth index. Okay, so are there any doubts here? If not, we can go further. We can start, you can execute this and see how the reverse is working, how the indexes are assigned for every iteration. Okay, so if there are no doubts, we will go to uh, one more list append thing. So how do we have seen append
Okay,
function, right?
Kaushal, just a quick
So
check.
yes,
So, are you with us? Because we have executed 11 different programs so far. Are you with us till now? Any questions,
yeah,
anything, all of you? Can we get a quick yes from everyone in the chat, please? Yeah, we have got started getting yeses. Good. Now, because I mean, it's a remote
yeah,
one, so
thank you.
we have to check with you every now and then,
Yeah,
team. That's the reason. Back to you, Kaushal. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the response. So uh, again, a simple list operation we are doing here. So what basically we are trying to do is we are creating a list with 3 elements. First element is a string element, then a numeric elements. We have assigned and we have created an empty list. So if you don't give any values inside square brackets, it will be an empty list. Okay, and then we are running this for loop. So this is kind of one more variation to run the for loop. You can instead of giving the list the number of the elements, like inside the range, you've seen you can give 9, 8 or 4. Now in this case you can give 3. So instead of doing that, if there is somehow like a list where you don't know the number of elements, okay, if there is a large list where there are hundreds of elements, what you do then, right? So the solution then would be to use the len function inside the range. So you can just give for I in the range len of the list name, list 1 here. Okay, and we are just simply doing then the print of list 1 I. So I value, as you have seen, will keep increasing from 0. It will start from the index 0 to 2 here. Okay, so that's where the len function comes into picture. For larger lists where you can't count really the number of elements, here you can count. But if there is a list where you can't count the number of elements, you can simply use the len of list name inside the range function. Okay, and you can go ahead with your for loop. So what we are basically trying to do here is we are assigning every member of every iteration, that is every member, to an variable called element. Okay, via this statement, and then we are basically checking if type of that element is int. Okay, so when you see this condition, you can already visualize that if that condition is true, you will add 4 to that number. Okay, and then what we do is we are appending that number, that is after adding 4, to the list 2 that is here. So let me just quickly print this now. Right, so uh, don't get confused by this. This is the actual output. Okay, so what happened here is this condition was true for only two elements, that is 100 and 200, because only their type is int. ABC is not int type, and then it added 4 to those numbers and it appended those numbers inside this empty list. So now list 2 has two numbers, uh, after adding 4 to those numbers, that is 104 and 204. These two numbers have been added. uh, 4 has been added to those numbers and then appended to this empty list. So if I give any other values, as you saw last time, that append function appends the elements to the last, right? So if this is, for example, not an empty list, if I right, so if list 2 contains 105, 104 and 204 have been appended after it, right? So it appends to the last. I hope this is clear. Okay, if there are any doubts, and you can try to execute this and see how it is working, we can proceed then. I'll just wait for your chats, so we can proceed then to dictionaries. So can I get a yes if you are clear, or are there any questions? Okay, thank you everyone. So we move on to for loop for dictionaries. Okay, so as Aditi told you in the last session, that dictionaries are defined inside these curly braces, and the key value pairs are separated by this colon, right? So now you might have also seen that the values can contain a list of the value side of the dictionary pair can contain a list also, right? So here we have lists. So what I've taken is the batsman and the number of runs they might have scored uh, as a list for each of these values. Okay, so remember, after the colon, whatever comes is the value side of the pair. uh, Left side of the colon is the key. Okay, so just simply running this, you can say key val, multiple, again multiple variables here in player.items. So player is the dictionary we are using. So if you can call this items function by using it with a dictionary name. So for key val in so what player.item function returns is keys and values. So whatever it is returning, first value we are taking as key, and then second value is the values of those pairs. So we can quickly run this. So we can see the keys here are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The left side of the colons, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And the values here are the right side of the colons. Okay, so again, a simple for loop you can use with the items function to get the key value pairs from a dictionary. So you can use dictionary pair here, sorry, dictionary name with the items function. Okay, and similarly, if you want only the keys or only the values, you have these functions. So if you see key in player.keys. Now again, this variable can be anything. You can name this anything. Okay. Uh, and but what matters is this dictionary name should be correct, and the dot keys function. You can get all the keys for a dictionary, and you can just see them here. Similarly, for values in player.values, just a simple for loop again. If I run this, you get the value side of things, the pairs. Okay. Uh, so now simple operation you can do also you can do this parallelly. So what what is happening here is count count is assigned a number 0, so we will add it. So we are using the for loop to basically count the number of instances where a batsman has scored less than 100 runs. Okay, so uh, inside the dictionary you might see this part of the values, inside the values as well. So the values are what, this list, right? This list are values. So inside these values, the right side of the comma are the runs. So as Aditi might have Aditi told you yesterday, that is on Tuesday, that if you want to access the the elements inside of if the values in a dictionary are in this list format, you can basically access them using uh, like what variables I'm using here, like key value in player the items. This remains the same. Now the value variable will be is the list, right? Is this list. So if you give uh, value 1, so value 0 is what, this Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, their names. Okay, and value 1 is these numbers. You might remember this from yesterday. So we are just checking if value 1 is less than 100, count is equal to count plus 1. So we are just for every dictionary value pair, we are just checking for if the value 1, that is these values, are less than 100, so that we can count them. So you can get the final count if you run this. So there are 3 instances or 3 batsmen who have scored less than 100 runs, right? So this is working correctly. If I put val 0 here, so this will not work. Can anybody tell me why it will not work? This comparison should not work. Why it should not work? So it is simply because yep, I've got an answer. Yes, correct, Nandu. It is a string value, right? So val 0 will have values Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, like that, right? So if you so you can't compare a string value with a numeric value, as simple as that. So this should give you an error. Please wait for a second. Yes. So it just says not supported between string and int, whereas with this one it works perfectly. So with this we have come to end of for loops. So are there any questions here? Are you guys following everything? Uh, Trying to run everything and understanding how each and every for loop is working. So can we proceed further, or you have any questions? Please ask them. So can I get a quick yes from you in the chats so that we can move ahead. All right. Thank you, everyone. So we will go to the while loop now. So you might have seen like for loop is a very useful tool to do iterations, to iterate through or to go through a list or a string values and to do repetitive kind of operations on them, right? So what you might have also seen that for loop, if you want to check certain conditions inside the loop for every element of a list, or if for every um uh, yes, elements of list or strings, if you want to check certain conditions for uh, elements of the list, you have to use an if statement. So you might have noticed this trend. Whereas in the while loop, there is a by default uh, condition you have to give, okay, inside these circular brackets for the loop to run. Okay, so without this condition being true, the loop will not run. Okay, so you don't need to give an if statement with the while loop. You just first check for the condition, and then you go inside the loop. What are the operations you want to perform? Okay, so you might see here like A is assigned 0, C is assigned a value 50. So if I am giving C is greater than 1, then only these set of operations should take place. Okay, so what will happen now is C will on every iteration, C will be divided by 4. Okay, so on every iteration, C will be divided by 4. Okay, so first C value is 50. So then now we are again using C is equal to C divided by 4 here, right? The simple operation. So for every iteration, for every repetition of this loop, C will be divided by 4. So first value which is coming here is 50. Now 50 divided by 4 will give you 12.5. And similarly like that, you can see the C value reducing, right? So next value, it will be next iteration, it will be still 12.5 will be greater than 1, right? So it will go inside the loop again, and again A value will be increased by 1, and then 12.5 will be divided by 4 again. Okay, so the next C value will be 3 point something, right? So can you tell me how many times this loop will run? Simple mathematics, and can quickly see how many times it will be run and when this condition will become false. So that will also give us yes, exactly correct, Anisha. It will be 3 times, right? So first we'll just see, just run this thing, right? So as it is 3 times, so for every time we are adding the value 1. So first it will be 1, the second time this is running it will be 2, and then third time it will be 3. Okay, so based on this condition, this loop will run. Okay, so one more customization you can do here is you can use a break statement. So when you want to not run an iteration, suppose you don't want to run a certain uh, you don't want to run a loop for a certain value, then that is when you use the break statement. Okay, so so what will happen is I'm sorry, what will happen if you use the break statement is, suppose you want to break the loop after a certain value. Okay, so the loop will end there. So uh, like if you see the first n value here we are giving here is 5. So as you have to specify a condition here, we have given if n is greater than 0, we go into the next statement. So 5 is greater than 0 is true, so we go here, and then 5 now becomes n minus is equal to 1, so 5 now becomes 4, n is equal to n minus 1, so 5 has become 4. So now this condition, you see, if n is equal to 2, break. Okay, and then we have print n. So just a quick run of this loop will show you how this works. So the first condition, it worked because n was 4 and not 2. So this was false, and that's why this didn't run. The print ran, right, because the print is declared inside the loop. So whatever is like indented like this in the same alignment like this is inside the loop. So if you see, this n minus is equal to 1 and the print are in the same alignment to the right side. So that is, so print n is also part of the loop. So it will run till the loop runs, otherwise no. So what happens in the first iteration, the value is 4, so you get print n, so you get 4. For the next one, 4 is greater than 0, correct, and then uh, it becomes 3. N is not 4, now it becomes 3, but it is still not 2, right? So this will not, this condition will not work. The print will work, so 3 will be printed. For the next one, 3 is greater than 0, and 3 now becomes 2. Now this if condition will come into play, and as 2 is equal to 2, n is now 2, this loop will break. Okay, so now n will not be printed anymore, and it will come out of the loop, and as the statement is outside the loop ended, this print will be printed. So that's why you don't see the value 2 printed here. It is only printed till 3, because once it is 2, it is, the loop is breaking and it is not printing n. It is coming out of the loop and it is printing loop ended, right? So this is a simple break statement. So it is used to terminate the loop. Okay, any questions here? Uh, you can try to run it. If you can try to assign a different value to this if condition, like if you assign it 1 and try to run it, you will see it will print till 2, and for 1 it will break, and 1 will not be printed. It will go to this statement, a loop ended. Okay, so everything clear? Can we proceed ahead? Can I get a quick yes from you all? I know it's a little repetitive, but that's also to keep you busy. Thank you so much. So the last statement for these are, by the way, part of branching. Okay, so branching, as you might visualize from the sentence, from the word, sorry, branching will try to move you out of the loop. It can move you to different sections also, and it will basically help you to escape the loop, to execute different statements inside the loop, right, based on the conditions. So break and continue are examples of branching. So we'll see quickly what how continue works. So same thing, n is 5. We are checking the same condition while n is greater than 5. and minus is equal to 1. And if the only change here is if n is equal to 2, we are putting continue here. uh, so what continue will do is basically it will skip this iteration. So it will skip the print n uh, for the n value 2. Okay, it will move again to the while loop at the start of the while loop, right? So for n is equal to 2, you will not get this print, but you may get it for n is equal to 1. So if I run this, right, so if you see it's 4310 and loop ended, so it has basically skipped the print n operation for n is equal to 2. Okay, because the continue statement is instructing it to move to the next iteration, to move to the next n value. It will just instruct it to move to the start of the while loop. Okay, so for n is equal to 2, this print n will not execute. It will again move to the start. It is basically telling it to move to the start. So then it will check for the condition 2 is greater than 0, 2 becomes 1, and then as 1 is not equal to 2, again like normal, 1 will be printed. Okay, so any questions here? Because again continue will help you to skip certain repetitions of the loop. So if I don't want to print 2, I can use continue. If I don't want to print, sorry, use the loop for a certain number, I can use continue to skip to the next one. Okay, all right. So if you do you have any doubts or any questions, or everything is clear? You can ask now because we have come to the end of for loops. I have an assignment for you after this. So if there are no questions, we can maybe go to the assignment. Are there any questions? Can you please confirm on the chat box? There is a question you should get now here actually. So let me ask you, if n is greater than 0 is the condition, why do you think 0 is getting? Can anybody answer this? Because we are checking if n is greater than 0, then how is 0 getting printed? Check for each iteration how it is working.
The person who answers this need not do the assignment.
Yeah. bonus
Any
marks.
answers? Yes, correct. Executing and after then it will check. That's what Nandu says. Okay,
Yes, correct, Nandu, correct.
good.
That's the correct answer. Yes.
So
So,
Nandu, you need not do the assignment then. Good.
yeah, that's a good answer. So, for anybody else, okay, Nandu is saying thank you. So, as Nandu said, for the value 1, right, 1 is greater than 0, and then n is becoming 0 here, and it is getting printed. And it is for the next value that 0 greater than 0 will not work. Okay, so for the n value 1 itself, you get the 0 printed because then the 1 is written to 0 here, right? Okay, good answer here, Nandu. So we have an assignment for you. We so you can, sir, can we try the assignment here or?
No,
Uh,
I think let them try the assignment in the interest of time. Okay.
okay, okay.
And if there is any question or anything, we can always handle it for them later.
Sir, this is Vishnuvardhan, sir.
Yeah, Vishnu.
Sir, I had one issue, sir, in the Jupyter. That
Mm-hmm.
if we run a statement means that using continuous statement, I just checked for that, sir. Whether I click the run means it directly skipping to that assignment cell.
Oh, so you are saying if you run this, so you are not getting this output?
Yeah, yeah. It's just skipping to the assignment cell. It didn't giving me a output on that.
Okay, Vishnu, most
Okay, okay.
probably two things might have happened here. One, did you create this as a code line or did you create it as a markdown text?
Yeah, I didn't. Sir, I didn't change anything like in the code and also. In that, in the 24 number is just changed into in star. That asterisk symbol came into
Star
that
means
bracket, sir.
it is getting executed. That is the second reason.
Yeah,
The second reason is
yeah,
the
correct.
server is not running maybe for you.
Hmm.
So what you should
So
do is you may need to close
yeah,
and
Oh,
open it again. It will work out.
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll give you
Once
some yarn here, Kaushal. I'll just take a second.
thank you,
Okay.
sir.
yeah,
Thank
yeah, sure.
So Vishnu and everyone, what you need to understand is there is a compiler which executes the code behind the screen. So what Anaconda provides you is Anaconda is giving you an environment where you can write Python code and you can execute it and test it out. Now, Vishnu's problem is he's executing the code, but the code is not getting executed. That is the compiler or the executor that is not running behind the screen. So that means the server, that is what we call it a server, right? What happens actually when you write the code goes into the server, the compiler will check whether every syntax is followed. If everything is right, the output will be given. If nothing is right, then error, I mean, something is wrong means error will be given. And if it is not even coming out means the compiler itself is not working. The server itself is not working. That means close the complete Jupyter notebook, then Anaconda, then restart Anaconda, run it as administrator, restart it, and then open the Jupyter file. It should work. That is, the server is getting restarted so that your output will come out correctly. Does that make sense, everyone? Are you able to understand this? Oh, good, Anisha. You also face the same problem. What did you do? Is it resolved? Anisha, you can unmute and tell us.
I was just opening a new notebook and I was working, sir.
Okay, so you just open a new notebook. Maybe there is a problem with the notebook also. It might be the reason. Okay, no worries. So Vishnu, try it out. Try a new notebook. If not, close Anaconda and open it again. It will work out for you. Yeah, back to you, Kaushal. Sorry for taking your time.
No problem, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the next topic. We have an assignment for you here. So please try to do this by yourself. And if you want, we can also help you in this. We have the WhatsApp group for that reason. If you get any doubts while solving these questions, so and we can also post you the solutions for your help. Okay.